Okay, welcome to the next video. This one is especially important and interesting because of the structure of the question. Now, the question is, how does Boo capture the abject misery within this environment? As you know, I'm underlining the key words. Now, this how does Boo do this? It's not asking about. It's not a question like abject misery is inherent to Anuati. Discuss, right? That would be a thematic question. What this is it's saying, how does Boo capture this abject misery? So this is an entirely, almost an entirely different style of essay. This is a structural essay. So it's not asking you to discuss the theme of misery or the environment. It's asking you to discuss structurally, how did Boo capture that? So what we need to discuss is what kind of words, what kind of paragraph construction, what kind of chapter by chapter construction went on to capture this misery. The second part of it that I find interesting is that it has to be challenged, right? So abject misery. I think it's important for this one for you to really kind of break this down a little bit, right? And talk about how there is misery, right? But there is also hope within this community, right? So at the same time as you're going to discuss how she captured the misery, I think we've also got to discuss how she captured the hope that these people still have within the community. So let's start. One of the biggest structural things that occurs, or the most obvious structural component of the book, is the prologue versus the rest of the text. Right? So, prologue you, right? So we start off with Fatima having been killed, having burned herself, and we have Abdul is running for into his trash and hiding and whatever else, and then he goes and turns himself in, and then it goes backwards in time, right? And then it does like a chapter by chapter analysis of various people, right? So why does she do that? Why does Boo do this? If we're to ask her why structurally would she start with what at the end of the day in the climax, in the prologue, is the climax, right? So much of the text is focused around the burning of Fatima. So why did she start with that? And then why did she go back and give us time to understand what was going on, right? Well, the reason might be for us to, one, it might be some kind of shock value. Yeah, someone has set themselves on fire, right? And we are, supposed to see that and kind of be upset and kind of like, how could someone do that? And blame this other person, and why would you set yourself on fire to simply, get back at somebody, right? This is how we're supposed to be feeling. So this is part of the misery aspect, isn't it? Right? But the other half of it is, then she then goes back and recounts these character profiles in the first half of the book. Yeah? And what do they teach us? Right? They teach us how, about the really poor conditions. Yeah? So they are asking us to have empathy. Yeah? So this prologue going straight to the climax, what is that structurally doing? Well, it's structurally allowing us to, first of all, witness the horror of Anawati, and then at the same time, she goes back in order for us to build up this empathy, right? So this is a structural reason, isn't it, right? It's a structural thing she's done with her book to make us feel, understand the misery of the text, but also the hope inside the text. What about the environment? What happens with that? All right. I'll do it in green. Environment. Well, I think, it might be tempting in a non-fiction text to say the environment was the environment. She had no control over it. But that's not entirely true. She had a choice of many different slums, and she chose this one for particular reasons. She chose it for structural reasons. So we can talk about that as if those were her decisions, right? Well, what do we see? We see the hotels. Yeah. What else do we have? We have the beautiful Forever's wall. We have the trash. We have the lake, the sewage lake. Yeah? We have the airport. Right? Well, what do these represent? Certainly the hotels and the beautiful forevers, right? Well, this is structurally kind of almost symbolically representing the distinction, right? The class distinction. Yeah? These are physical representations. They're literally surrounded by rich people, yeah, and they're literally kind of holding them in and containing them, and those things are a direct threat they're an existential threat upon Anawati. The hotels are going to close in. They are going to swallow up Anawati. And the same thing with the airport, right? It's an existential threat to Anawati, right? And that's a severe, pressure upon these people. So in addition to just being a slum, it's a slum that's in the process of being destroyed, right? But what is also the airport represent? If we talk about that being the misery, the airport also represents in some way opportunity, isn't it? Yeah, in many senses. So the airport is going to swallow them up. So if they have survived there for long enough, they might eventually get a small, high-rise apartment, right? It also represents modernism. And their connection to the wider world, right? Which again is too focused. One sense, the modernism is what allows people like Zurumsia to have more freedom than she would in a more traditional Muslim community, right? She gets to sort of swear at her customers and actually work and be more, how she wants to be. But on the other hand, they're more exposed to, international catastrophes like the global financial crisis. Similarly with the trash, right? It does represent the excess of the super rich. But at the same time, it's the only opportunity out, isn't it? Right? It's the only ability to. It's the only opportunity to feed themselves, right? So at the same time, it's this misery. There's also this hope to it. The lake, the sewage lake that surrounds their town, this really represents the contamination of their society. And I personally can't think of any connection to hope there. But it's certainly a really powerful symbol that Boo uses throughout the entire text to represent the underlying disgustingness of their environment. Okay. The next one that, I'm just picking a few off the top of my head, could be something like the justice system. There were a lot of Anawadians. Why did she choose to follow the story of this family going through the justice system? Right? Why is that a centre focus? Well, it allows her to talk about corruption. It allows her to talk about the unfairness of that system, both in the sense that it's corrupt, but also in the sense that it's, weighed up against the poor. So if you're rich, justice can be managed, the courts can be managed in Anawali. But there's also, again, this sense of hope in the justice system, right? There's a sense of that, at the end of the day, the family that she chose to really report on were freed, they were released, right? They did end up getting what they ended up getting some justice out of it, right? So there's some kind of hope that the justice system might eventually or in some way work for the poor as opposed to against it. So that's all I'm going to do. There's certainly a lot more to talk about here, but what I wanted you to understand is this is not a thematic question, or at least not entirely. In this question, you need to be talking about structural things they did in the text. So where they had the prologue at the beginning of the climax of the book, the setting that she chose, the narrative of the following this idea of the justice system. But you could also talk about the language, right, that she chose. Why do all the Anawadians speak like poets, right? Why do they have phrases like the hotels of roses and where the shit in between, right? I mean, that's a relatively, poetic sort of phrase. We have Abdul giving strong metaphors, right, and be able to break down those metaphors, right? Why has she chosen people that are so, so literary, in their own way, right? And for that matter, what about the literature that she's chosen to discuss? All the books that we have, that were inside the text that these kids were reading. So there's plenty to talk about. Have a go at responding to this prompt down below. Try to say some intelligent things, and I'll see you in class.